at Largo di Torre, Argentina. I am so excited, you guys. We can finally enter this incredible archaeological site that has never been accessible since it was discovered in the 1920s until now. So what exactly is Largo di Torre, Argentina? I know that is a mouthful. Basically, it is three things. First and foremost, it is an archaeological site where you can see 4 temples from the Republican era of ancient Rome. Second of all, it also happens to be the site of the assassination of Julius Caesar. Third of all, and I think most famously, it is Rome's biggest sanctioned cat sanctuary. All right, so let's talk about all 3 of those things, and then I'm going to take you inside with me and show you around. Let's start with why this place is called Largo di Torre Argentina. So Torre means tower, and the tower that it refers to is no longer here. And the name Argentina actually refers to a Roman military outpost, which is modern-day Strasbourg. In 1503, Johann Burckhardt, who was the master of ceremonies for the Borgia Pope, Alexander VI, he built a tower around here. And he was from Strasbourg, whose Latin name was Argenturatum. So that's basically where we get the name Torre Argentina. It's from this papal master of ceremonies from the 1500s, talking about a tower that is no longer here. But today we do call it Largo di Torre Argentina. Largo means a big space. Sometimes we shorten the name to just Largo Argentina. And you'll also see it called the Area Sacra di Torre Argentina. Area Sacra means the sacred area because these are temples, and some of them were converted into Christian churches in the Middle Ages. So I've told you that these temples are from the Republican era of ancient Rome. What does that mean? Well, the timeline goes briefly something like this. 753 BCE, Rome was founded by Romulus of Romulus and Remus fame. Romulus became the first king of Rome, and the Kingdom of Rome was established. The Kingdom of Rome lasted from the time of Romulus in 753 BCE all the way until 509 BCE, when the last of 7 kings was deposed and the Roman Republic was born. The Roman Republic lasted from 509 BCE all the way until the assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March in 44 BCE. There was something of an interregnum, which means between leaders, until Caesar Augustus, Octavian Augustus, became the first emperor of Rome in about 27 BCE. So the Roman Empire lasted from the time of Augustus in 27 BCE until the fall of the Roman Empire, or at least the Western Roman Empire, in the year 476 CE. So when I say that all 4 of these temples are from the Republican age, they are from that period between 509 BCE and the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE. After Italian unification in 1870, the Italian government decided to restore parts of Rome. They were digging around this area to demolish it, essentially, and they discovered a huge marble head, an arm, that had once belonged to a statue of a deity. Now, when they were excavating the site initially, they didn't know what these temples were for or who they were dedicated to, so they named them temples A, B, C, and D. And that's how I'm going to refer to them when I show them to you when we go down below. But the temples were all built at very different times. We just happen to see them all together, but they are from different eras, and we'll talk about that when we go down. Eventually, archaeologists determined that Julius Caesar had been assassinated here, and that's why you see that pine tree over there. It marks the spot where Caesar was assassinated. When I tell people that this is the site of Julius Caesar's assassination, they come back with, well, wait a second, I thought he was killed in the Roman Forum. That is how William Shakespeare wrote it. Shakespeare also wrote that Julius Caesar famously said, "Et tu, Brute," to one of his assassins, although that is probably not based on fact. So, why is this the site of the assassination of Julius Caesar? Wasn't he killed in the Roman Forum? The answer is no, he was not killed in the Roman Forum. He was killed here on the steps of Pompey's theater. So who was Pompey? Pompey was an ally of Julius Caesar. He was actually a great statesman, and he was a friend and ally of Julius Caesar until he turned against him. Pompey and another statesman named Crassus, along with Julius Caesar, formed the first triumvirate. That means 3 people who were ruling Rome together. In a power struggle, Pompey eventually turned against Julius Caesar, although he died in Egypt before Julius Caesar was assassinated. While he was in power, there was a huge complex named for him. It was called the Theater of Pompey. On the Ides of March 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was on the steps of Pompey's theater when he was stabbed to death by ostensibly his friends. Pompey's theater was not related to these temples, it just happened to have been in the same area, which is called the Field of Mars, Campo Marzio. Now we can see part of Pompey's theater here in these ruins, not very much of it, but we can. But you can see a bit more of Pompey's theater not far from here if you know where to look. Just behind me is Campo di Fiori, and Campo di Fiori today is known for its vibrant market, also its cute little streets, and there are some wonderful little spots in there that not a lot of people know about. One of these spots is called Piazza del Biscione. At Piazza del Biscione, you can visit and even eat at Da Pancrazio, which is actually a really good restaurant, and in the basement you will find ruins of Pompey's theater. And just next to Da Pancrazio is this sweet little passageway called the Passetto del Biscione. If you take that passetto and go to the other side, you will be on Largo del Pallaro. Largo del Pallaro actually follows the outline of Pompey's theater. Here on Largo del Pallaro, there is a drawing with a map that shows us where Pompey's theater was. Now we've just come out of the Passetto del Biscione. This is the outline of Pompey's theater. And as you can see, this would have been the theater itself. And here on the steps of the theater is where Julius Caesar was assassinated. And here we have the 4 temples in Largo Argentina. So you're probably thinking, wow, that is a huge theater. It was a big complex. So yes, it did start back there in Largo del Biscione, in Piazza del Biscione, and its steps were here at the back of Largo di Torre Argentina. If you happen to be here in March, you might want to come down here and check out the reenactment of the assassination of Julius Caesar. There is an association called the Gruppo Storico Romano, which is the Roman Historical Society, and they carry out this enactment of the assassination of Julius Caesar in full costume. It's quite a spectacle. If you want to know more about the Passetto del Biscione and Campo di Fiori, I've got a whole page with lots more details. I've linked to that below. So inevitably, when I started talking about the Largo Argentina site that you can visit, everybody started to say, well, what about the cats? What about the cats? And coming from somebody who has adopted several of the cats we've had in our lives from this spot, of course, I care very much about the cats and how they are, and they're fine. Where I'm standing right now, you can see that behind me, there are some kitties in the ruins. And on this side, there is the actual cat sanctuary where they bring in cats, people leave their cats there, they deworm them, they vaccinate them, they spay and neuter them, and then these cats that live here in the ruins, they just stay here. Those cats that are in the facility, they actually are available for adoption, even from afar. So how have the cats fared now that they've opened up the site for visitors? Just fine, just the same as before. The cat sanctuary where you can adopt them out is still there, it's still going strong, and the cats who live in the ruins, believe me, they have plenty of places to go, to hide, to rest in the shade. They have a lot more space than what you might see when you walk around and visit, but you'll also see the cats as you walk around, and they're fine. In ancient Rome, there were often fires that devastated whole neighborhoods, buildings, including this area. And there were 2 such fires that caused some of the archaeological changes that we see below today. The first fire was in 111 BCE. 3 of the temples existed, Temple B did not. So to repair the space and make it accessible, a tuff floor was placed here. Now we have 2 kinds of stone here in Rome, or near Rome. They're called tuff and travertine. Tuff are the building blocks that you see in a lot of the ancient Roman structures, including the Servian walls. Travertine is what you see all over Rome. It's what the Colosseum was made of. It's that white stone that looks a little bit porous. We do not have those beautiful colored marbles that you see in a lot of places in Rome because those came from elsewhere in the Roman Empire. There was another devastating fire in the year 80 CE. Now we are in the time of the Roman Empire. The emperor at the time, Domitian, who's the same guy who made the Stadio Domiziano, Domitian Stadium, which you know today as Piazza Navona, Emperor Domitian restored one of the temples, and he laid down a travertine floor, which we can see here as well. Another thing from the time of Domitian is the black and white mosaic on the inner temple cella, and you can actually see that from above on the back of this square. Right now, you can just walk right up and buy tickets. I have yet to see a line here. The ticket office is right next to the ruins, so let's go get a ticket and head down in. This tower that you see here actually has nothing to do with Torre Argentina that we spoke about. It's just one of many, many towers that Rome had in the Middle Ages and has survived. Was built in the 3rd century BCE and is probably the Temple of Juturna. Now that we're down here on ground level, if you look very carefully, you can see that this temple was reused as a church, which was very common in Rome, certainly in medieval Rome. They started to reuse temples as churches, and here you can see the frescoes on the apse of the church. It's really astounding because I've never seen these frescoes before, and here they are. Temple B is the only one of these temples with a circular plan called a tholos, and there are 6 columns remaining, as you can see. Now, this temple was made in 101 BCE, so it's considerably newer than Temple A, which was built over 100 years prior. It's thought that this temple was devoted to Fortuna Huice Die, which means the fortune of this day. So at this point, I am standing between temples B and C, and you can see behind me the ruins of Pompey's theater. Temple C is the most ancient of the 4 temples. It was built on the primitive countryside between the end of the 4th and the beginning of the 3rd century BCE. The temple was likely devoted to Feronia, the ancient Italian goddess of fertility. The largest of the 4 temples is Temple D. It dates back to the 2nd century BCE. It may have been devoted to nymphs, or it was devoted to Lares per Marini, which means Lares who protected sailors. As you can see, we are actually underground. Most of this temple has not been excavated, so the street is above us, and on the other side of that wall is the cat sanctuary. Guys, this is really one of the best parts of this exhibit, this amazing museum that they created here. I do recommend that you go around the backside and take a look down, because from there you can really see more easily some of the other parts of these temples that you can't really see when you're down in the ruins visiting them. For example, you can see the black and white tiled floor that was put down in the time of Domitian in Temple C. And Temple A, you can see it quite well from below. In fact, you can also see the frescoes from below. But from the side, you can see the frescoes a little bit better, and you can also see the remains of a cosmatesque floor, which is pretty amazing. Cosmatesque floors are something you'll find in churches all around Rome, including in the Sistine Chapel. These floors were made in the 12th and 13th centuries by a family by that name, the Cosmati family, who were artisans skilled at taking colored marbles that were shards of ruins from the Roman Empire and turning them into beautiful patterns and floors. How can you fit in this site in your Rome itinerary? It's so centrally located. We are 5 minutes from Piazza Navona, from the Pantheon. Campo di Fiori is behind me, the Jewish ghettos over there, and Piazza Venezia is just a 5-minute walk in the other direction. So we're really in the center of Rome. It's easy to reach from all of these sites. And whether you just walk around the outside or pay the €5 and go in and spend maybe 20 to 30 minutes here, I really think it's worth stopping by at the very least. So Rome-based jewelry house Bulgari financed this restoration and this whole project of making a museum out of this site. They have done an incredible job, and I'm so grateful because it is a really fantastic site. For more videos about ancient Rome, check out my playlist right here.